We got the Mac Mini Pro here, fully loaded with 32 gigabytes of RAM and 1 terabyte of storage. Now the starting price of the Pros is $1,300, but with these upgrades now, the price has been driven up to $2,000, and that's Mac Studio territory. Putting the Pro up along this base model Mac Mini, you see that everything is completely identical, except you get 2 more Thunderbolt 4 ports. With those extra Thunderbolt ports, you can now power 3 displays with the Pro instead of 2 with the regular Mini. 3 displays are using 3 Thunderbolt ports, or 2 Thunderbolt ports and an HDMI. So right away, just like the Mini, you can see a problem happening, running out of ports. If this is gonna be your video editing machine, you're definitely gonna need a hub, and a hub with an SD card reader, because for some reason, they didn't put an SD card reader on the Pro version for professionals.
Why, Apple?
I guess Apple thinks a Pro machine is one where you can load it up with 8 terabytes of storage, which you can do. Yeah, that's what professionals need. We need RAM, Apple, not this RAM, this RAM. One Pro feature is definitely on the HDMI port, which is now upgraded to the 2.1 HDMI. And you can pump out an 8K image at 60 Hertz or 4K at an impressive 240 Hertz, which is very nice. And memory bandwidth in the Pros has also been boosted up to 200 gigabytes a second, which is twice that of the standard M2. So this loaded Mini Pro should do pretty good with its 12-core CPU, 19-core GPU, and practically double what the new entry-level Mini is GPU-wise. I was very impressed with this Mini base model. You can check out the tests up here, so I am very excited to see what this Pro can do. If the stuff you're working on is a little more intense, heavy on the edits, heavy on the 4K, 8K footage, and also heavy on the length of these videos, I'm talking about 1 hour plus type videos with multiple tracks you're editing, the Mac Studio with the M1 Max chip comes in at practically the same price as this Mini Pro and offers a lot more improvement in cores, memory, bandwidth, and ports. So Apple is really good at putting us in these little brackets. They know what we want and they know how much we're willing to pay for it. And I feel your pain if you are trying to decide right now on which new M2 to get, because there are so many choices. So let's put the new Mini Pro up against a MacBook Pro from last year with the M1 Max chip. Hopefully this Mini Pro is a good contender and we're gonna see some fireworks happening. Chapters are down below in the descriptions if you just wanna skip ahead to your favorite program speed test. And I'm also going to try editing this video on the Pro afterwards. So I'll leave some comments about how that went, if it was able to handle all this footage, because these speed tests take a lot of tracks and they're very long tracks. So lots of time lapse, speeding up things, and I think that'll really give this a good run for its money. So let's take it away to the speed test. All right, folks, we have the Mac Mini Pro on the left-hand side with the studio display again. And on the right is our 14-inch MacBook Pro from last year. This is equipped with the M1 Max chip and 64 gigabytes of RAM, as opposed to the Mac Mini Pro with 32 gigabytes of RAM. So I think this is gonna be a fair fight this time. Let's do a Quicktime player export. I always find that that's kind of a good litmus test for this stuff. I have an MP4 from the drone, 4K. Let's open that up and export it as 1080p. Let's see how long that takes. All right, this is what I wanted to see. That was definitely keeping up with the M1 Max, so this is gonna be a nice little speed test, I think. Let's fire up Premeire Pro, and I've got one of my old sessions. We're gonna open that up, render it, and then do a couple export tests. Feels like we're going about 3/4 speed of the M1 Max, which is great because the base model Mini was about 2.5 times slower. So let's jump into exports now. We'll start off with a Pro Res 422 export of this session. All right, neck and neck. I love it. The M2 Pro definitely keeping up. with last year's M1 Max. Let's try an H.264 export in our favorite YouTube 4K preset, and we'll see how that does. Okay, interesting. That H.264 took a little longer, but the Mini Pro is definitely moving along really fast. Let's open up a session in After Effects. We're going to use the same one as last time, this Odyssey template that you can find on Motion Array. I'll leave the link down in the description below so you can go check it out, and I'll also leave a link to Motion Array where you can get $50 off an annual membership if you're interested in taking the plunge with Motion Array. I like them. Let's close Premeire down and load up After Effects. So opening this session up and pressing play right away, we're seeing both of them are having some issues just playing in real time. And the Mac Mini Pro is definitely up there in frames per second. Let's just go and make sure that we have the right amount of memory allocated to all of them. I'm just going to load the M1 Max up to the brim, and we'll kind of see if this M2 chip is really doing the work. Okay, so the Mini Pro has 26 gigabytes of RAM loaded up. The M1 Max on the right now has 58 loaded. So that goes to show that the M2, even though it's got less of everything, is still hanging tough with the M1 Max. You saw that in Playback. Let's press play again. It looks like the Mini Pro is able to play at more frames per second. Is this what I'm seeing? All right, that's what I'm talking about. Look at that Mac Mini Pro. Look at how many concurrent frames are going right now. This is awesome. So we're exporting it right now in Pro Res 422, and we are really seeing the power of this new M2 Pro chip. Alright, I think we have a new champion, at least for ProRes. The M2 Pro beat the M1 Max. Finally! All I've been watching all year long is this M1 Max crush everyone else. Finally, a contender has come along. Let's restart After Effects, clear the cache, make sure this is a fair fight, and we're going to do this again in H.264, and we shall see who wins. Okay, we restarted, opened up another chunk of the session, and just pressed play, and once again we can see the M2 Pro, the frames per second up there, doing much better. So we'll just let this get to the end, and then we're gonna do the H.264 Export. All right, the Max just finished, so. Okay, just wanted to make sure we were good on the settings. because once again, we're seeing that Pro take off. This is great. Awesome. The Mac Mini Pro beat the M1 Max again. Took about 50 seconds longer this time. Good stuff. Okay, let's check out Davinci Resolve now. Make sure this wasn't a fluke, and we shall see how some H.264 and Pro Res exports go down over there. So Playback starts up right away. Davinci definitely has no problems with 4K footage. So let's start up H.264 Export on this and see how we do. Okay, so that was kind of what we expected to see with this, more of what we were seeing in Premeire, where the M1, it's faster, but just barely. And the M2 Pro definitely giving it a run for its money, which is great to see. So let's try another export. We'll do a ProRes and see if that's any different. These new Mac Mini Pros can fly on ProRes. All right, very impressive results for this Mac Mini Pro. It is really nice to actually see the M1 Max be dethroned off its ivory palace. It's been keeping the top spot all year long, so nice to see some other contenders coming from Apple. This M2 Pro is crushing it. This held up just great in Premeire and Davinci, and it wasn't until After Effects that it really started to shine. It beat the M1 Max a few times. I even ran the test again just to make sure that I didn't mess anything up. So really cool. If you're into motion graphics, if you're doing After Effects stuff, and you need a low budget machine for back at home, something to contend with your studio, or something a little more portable, just throw this in your backpack. Take it wherever you know you got a screen or a monitor or a TV. You can plug this in, start working away on your After Effects and motion graphics stuff. Like I mentioned, once you start adding up all the peripherals, the accessories, this does start getting up there into the high numbers, and it gets into Mac Studio territory. And I actually have a Mac Studio here. It's a fully loaded one, so it's definitely not in the same bracket as this. But personally, I want to see how well this does up against the Mac Studio that I paid. I don't even want to tell you guys how much I paid for it. Exciting stuff that we're seeing these. So definitely hit subscribe so you can be the first to check out those tests against the Mini Pro versus the M1 Ultra. That seems to be the next logical step. It's all fun and games until you've got a project that needs to go out the door in the next few minutes and you're stuck waiting for these super long exports. So I hope to see you at the next one. Thank you so much for watching this. I really appreciate it, and I love that all of you guys are just loving watching these little races go down. It's not just me. So I hope to see you at the next one. Thank you, everyone. Take care.